Suzanne Collins writes in The Hunger Games, "For there to be betrayal, there would have to have been trust first." Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, is betrayal. If you need to learn about trust, look at last week's video. But in the meantime, let's talk about the difficult topic of betrayal. Sit back and let's learn about this together. All right, so the title of this week's episode didn't scare you away, so I will let you know. My name is Julie. I am a professional counselor in South Carolina, and we're continuing to explore Brenè Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart, and today we are exploring the topic of betrayal. And she says some things in the chapter which I don't think we are surprised about, but we need to review. And the first of which is that betrayal is excruciating because at its core, it's a violation of trust. You know, when we're trusting of another person, we're vulnerable. We let them in. We let them close to us. And when we've been betrayed, there's that sense that, oh, I was vulnerable. I let you in and you betrayed me. And most betrayals do occur in relationship with an individual, you know, between spouses or romantic partners, friends, co-workers, or family. You know, and they come in the form of affairs, of lying, of betraying confidence, of a partner using pornography for sexual satisfaction instead of turning toward their partner, rejecting or abandoning their partner, turning away from their partner. Maybe there's physical or sexual abuse by a trusted partner or a family member, or maybe multiple family members, or maybe a family member is turning you over for use by multiple other individuals. That is a huge betrayal of trust, and that betrayal is actually a betrayal trauma. And that betrayal trauma leads to all sorts of disorders and difficulties, anxiety and anger, depression and sadness, jealousy, decreased self-worth, embarrassment, humiliation, shame, and trauma symptoms, this increased arousal, multiple triggers, lots of fear, the feeling that the world is not safe. And we can also have self-betrayal, which includes similar types of symptoms. And self-betrayal occurs when I do or say things or I behave in ways against myself. You know, maybe times when I didn't stand up for or speak up for what I believed in, and it was a betrayal in my silence. You know, there are family systems where there are family members who are aware that there is sexual abuse happening, yet they don't speak up because there's shame and embarrassment that this is happening. And so there's a culture within the family that we can't talk about that. You know, shh, it's going to be fine, right? And so there's a self-betrayal for that individual because they didn't speak up for what they knew they needed to speak up for. And there's the betrayal being felt by the individual who is being abused and who is being neglected, not being protected by the other person who is knowledgeable about this abusive situation that's happening. There's also institutional betrayal, and within a family it can be an institutional betrayal as well. It's defined as when an institution causes harm by inaction or action to an individual who trusts and depends on that institution. And there are lots of institutions, you know, when we think about institutional betrayal and institutional abuse that come to mind. And there are lots of contributing factors. You know, strict membership requirements. You know, those strict membership requirements create buy-in from individuals. And so we've had to do all of these things. We are part of this elite group, and we are now a part of it. We're going to protect it for all we're worth because we had to do all of these things to get here. There's lots of terrible betrayal that occurs when people have buy-in to this strict membership. There's usually an existence of a power differential when we're talking about institutional betrayal as well. We think of a power differential. there are rigid priorities to protect the institution as well that happen when this type of betrayal is present. And even just to say these things, I'm certain that there are people who are listening to this right now who are triggered by the very thought of these betrayals happening. Their stomach is churning and they're feeling that heavy weight of the grief and the despair from being betrayed themselves as they're remembering their own betrayal. In Dare to Lead, Brenè Brown talks about institutional and organizational betrayal and cover-ups, and quotes her book on page 195 in Atlas of the Heart. She writes, "Cover-ups are perpetrated not only by the original actors, but by a culture of complicity and shame. Sometimes individuals are complicit because staying quiet or hiding the truth benefits them and or doesn't jeopardize their influence or power. Other times people are complicit because it's the norm. They work in a cover-up culture that uses shame to keep people quiet. Either way, when the culture of a corporation, nonprofit, university, government, church, sports program, school, or family mandates that it's more important to protect the reputation of that system than those in power, than it is to protect the basic human dignity of individuals or communities, you can be certain of the following problems. Shame is systemic. Complicity is part of the culture. Money and power trump ethics. Accountability is dead. Control and fear are management tools, and there's a trail of devastation and pain. All of those things are true when you are living in a family system, a corporation, a church, a group that is engaging in behavior to hide systemic abuse and betrayal. When there's a cover-up, it hurts. And it is possible when we've been betrayed or when we've been a victim of betrayal trauma and cover-ups by individuals or systems, there is a pathway to healing. It requires a huge amount, significant amounts of vulnerability. It requires that the person who has done the betraying or the organization who has done the betraying acknowledges what's been done, the true impact that has had on the individual or individuals who have been betrayed, who have been abused, who have been injured. It requires that accountability. It requires amends. It requires action on the part of the organization to lean into and to be able to offer what they can to say what happened was wrong. We should have protected you, and we didn't. We failed you in this. And the person or the people or the organization who hurt you is now facing the punishment, the consequences of their behavior. You've been carrying the consequences in silence for all this time. You don't have to anymore. Speak about it. Work it through. We are taking responsibility because the responsibility of the pain that was inflicted on you is ours and ours alone. So there's that side of it. If the organization can lean forward and say, we did this. If the person can lean in and say, I betrayed you. This is what I did, and I know that it hurt you this way. If you were the person who was betrayed, you can receive that, you can process it through, but practically there are other things that you can do as well. Practicing mindfulness is really important to stay present so that you're not ruminating in the past, thinking of all of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Maybe I could have fought harder. Maybe I should have said when I first noticed that my husband was staying up late. Maybe I should have noticed when my wife was doing these things and I should have spoken up, right? I'm not going to think in those in the past, in times that I can't do anything about, because ruminating in the past and pushing my anger down and not talking about it leads to depressive responses in me, and I don't want to go there. So instead, I'm going to practice mindfulness. I'm going to be present. I'm going to see how I'm feeling right now, and then I'm going to give myself what I need. I'm going to give myself proper nutrition and care. I'm going to really care for myself because I've been hurt. And when I've been hurt, whether physically or emotionally, I need time to recover. And recovery requires good nutrition and rest and care. If you have been the victim of a sexual betrayal, if your significant other has stepped out and had sexual relations outside of the marriage bed, if you have been sexually abused by a family member or a friend or a stranger or somebody in an institution, if you have been sexually abused in any way, go to your doctor and get tested for an STD or an STI. Look after yourself, putting your head in the sand and saying, yeah, I'm going to be fine. It doesn't protect you. You need to protect you and look out for yourself in this practical way, because you don't know. This might be the first time that somebody did something. They may have been careful and they may have been lucky that they didn't bring something home to you, but they may have brought something home to you as well. So go and get yourself tested. Pamper yourself a little bit as well. Try calming activities like yoga or martial arts. Try activities to get the anger out. Join a kickboxing class. Develop and make sure that the 5 closest people in your inner circle are healthy relationships. And if they're not healthy relationships, then maybe leave those relationships and develop some healthy relationships. If you don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, reach out to a mental health counselor who can help walk you through how to create healthy relationships. If your betrayals have been significant and started in childhood with childhood sexual betrayals, then you probably aren't very good at setting boundaries, and working with a mental health professional, learning how to set appropriate boundaries would be very beneficial. And then set those boundaries to start looking after yourself, because these betrayals are one of the first boundary violations. Remember when we were talking early on in our YouTube sessions about boundaries, right? My first boundary is my skin. And so if somebody has violated me as a person, then I often am not very good at other boundaries. So I might need to learn how to develop those boundaries. I need to find a safe and nurturing environment for myself to share my story. Maybe it's with that mental health counselor. Maybe it's in a group like Celebrate Recovery is a great organization that has groups for various things, support groups to help you work through this. Find your passion. Look for something good that you can pour your energy into. Commit to personal growth. This isn't your entire story. This is a part of your story. This betrayal and this injury and this wound was not good, but good can come from it as you develop a sense of strength and resilience, insight into yourself, and knowledge and understanding about the world around you and others. And then maybe you can help others. It is incredible to see this over the course of our lives, and quite frankly, a lot of my counselor colleagues have had difficult situations, have had experiences in life where they've experienced betrayal, and they wanted to reach back and help others as well. So betrayal hurts. Betrayal was a violation of trust. And there are very few pains that are as deep that cause us to question ourselves. The pain that's been caused against us impacts us in so many different ways. It's not easy, but you can get to the other side of it. I would encourage you to reach out to somebody. I thank you for coming here and getting to the end of this very difficult session today at Orange Therapy on YouTube, where you are welcome here, exactly as you are.